Hello, YouTube divers. This is Water Eye 122, and I want to welcome you all to the 100th episode of Magic Metal Mondays. So, in honor of this being the 100th episode, I decided to go back and count down my top 10 favorite power metal bands of all time. So, the criteria for this list is simple. The bands have to be specifically power metal, so symphonic metal will not be included, which really hurts me to say because as much as I wanted to include bands like Nightwish, Epica, and Edenbridge on this list, they're not technically power metal. They're technically symphonic metal. So, for that purpose, they will not be on this list, but all three of them are fantastic. We're strictly looking at some of these power metal bands. Um, so, and of course, all these bands range from either Europe or the US. I try to go out further, but there's not really a lot of power metal bands outside of Europe or the United States. And I know there's like Angra and stuff, but that will be a video for another day. And of course, this list is prone to change. So this is not like the final do or die list. Maybe in a few years I might update this list. But as of 2025, these are my 10 favorite power metal bands. And I will also I'll also reveal my favorite album from these bands. Though a lot of them I've already talked about at length in the past. So I'll try and keep it brief. So let's do it. So coming in at number 10, we have U.S. power metal legends Iced Earth. So this is actually the first time I've ever talked about Iced Earth in a grand capacity on this channel. I've mentioned them in a few videos in the past, but nothing really like to the extent of what I'm going to talk about here. So with Iced Earth, this was a band that I had a lot of skepticism going in. Not really because of the band itself. It's mainly because of the controversy that was surrounding this band. If you know, you know. I'm not going to talk about it on this channel. But yeah, the controversies surrounding this band just wasn't really gravitating me towards them very much. But then there was one time where I decided to go through their discography, and I was genuinely impressed with a lot of their material. Obviously, I haven't done a ranking for them yet because I need to re-listen to some of those later records. But their first two albums, their self-titled album from 1990 and their sophomore studio album, Night of the Storm Rider from 1991, both those albums are classic power metals, but I cannot stand the vocalists on either of those records, the original ones anyway. They just don't click with me whatsoever. But then Matt Barlow steps into the spotlight on their third studio album, Burnt Offerings, from 1995, and immediately he brings a sense of theatrics, anger, and aggressiveness to the band that no other Iced Earth singer has ever been able to deliver up to this point. Though Stu Block, their current singer, is doing a pretty good job of that, but make no mistake, Matt Barlow is the star of Iced Earth. And the four albums that they did with him in the late 90s and early 2000s are so good. Burnt Offerings in 95, The Dark Saga in 96, Something Wicked This Way Comes from 98, and Horror Show from 2001. All four of those albums are absolute bangers. And if I had to pick a favorite from Iced Earth, it would be their 1998 album, Something Wicked This Way Comes. I feel like it's the most consistent and it's the most entertaining album from Iced Earth, and I think it's also their darkest and their meanest album, and they have a lot of dark and mean albums. This is a very aggressive power metal band. And it also has the benefit of having my favorite Iced Earth song, Burning Times, the opening track. And it also has the Coming Curse, which is a masterpiece, mini epic of theirs. But yeah, overall, Something Wicked This Way Comes is a fantastic album that is definitely one of the standouts in power metal. Need to get back to it though, honestly. But yeah, Iced Earth is a very good band, and I look forward to getting more invested into them. So yeah, that said, Iced Earth comes in here at number 10. Number 9, this might be a shocker to a lot of y'all. This is a band I got into pretty recently, thanks to one of my subscribers. We're going to be talking about American Christian power metal rockers, Theocracy. So, Theocracy, very good band from Athens, Georgia. And of course, they're led by their mastermind, Matt Smith, who is their lead singer and main songwriter. And on the first album, he was the entire band. If you want to know more about what I think of Theocracy's discographies, I ranked their catalog in episode 94, so you can go check it out there. But my favorite album from Theocracy is their third studio album from 2011, As the World Bleeds. I often compare this album to those aforementioned Iced Earth albums with Matt Barlow in the 90s and early 2000s. It's a very dark, mean, and very aggressive power metal album, ironically enough, because Theocracy is a Christian band. But yeah, As the World Bleeds just has their best songs, and it also has my personal favorite Theocracy song, the 11-minute opening track, I Am, which is one of the greatest power metal epic songs I've ever heard. It's just a masterpiece of a song. As the World Bleeds, in general, is just a masterpiece of an album. I absolutely love this album. Of course, Theocracy have a lot of other great albums as well. I mean, I say a lot. They only have 5 albums so far. Other highlights are their sophomore album, Mirror of Souls from 2008, and their fourth studio album, Ghost Ship from 2016. So, and then you throw in As the World Bleeds, you got a run of 3 straight amazing albums. But again, I talk more about them in my Theocracy rankings. So if you want to know more, go check out that video. So yeah, Theocracy comes in here at number 9. Number 8, this is a band that I used to hold pretty high in the power metal scene, but they've kind of fallen down a little bit as my tastes have grown. And we're going to be talking about Edguy. So for a very long time, I always considered Edguy to be one of the best power metal bands. But as time has gone on, and obviously I've gotten more invested into more bands, and my power metal knowledge has grown, Edguy has unfortunately fallen off the rails a little bit, but I still consider their fourth studio album from 2000, The Savage Poetry, to be an absolute masterpiece of a power metal album and one of the best albums in the genre, one of the most underrated albums in the genre. Then you also have other albums like Theater of Salvation from 1999, Mandrake from 2001, and Hellfire Club from 2004 that I would also consider to be power metal classics. And, their sophomore album of Vainglory Opera from 1998 is also a fan favorite. So, I mean, Edguy definitely has a lot of great albums, but generally, I just view their discography as a little bit of a mixed bag. You never really know what you're going to get outside of those 4 classic albums from the band, but I mean, their material overall is strong enough to warrant them a spot in the top 10, and they were one of the first power metal bands I've heard too, so they're a pretty important band, and this will not be the last time you hear of a Tobias Sammet project in this video, spoiler alert. So, Edguy comes in here at number 8. Number 7, we're going to travel up to Sweden, and we're going to be talking about Hammerfall. Yes, the cheesy, battle war-themed power metal power metal group from Sweden. When you think of power metal, Hammerfall is really one of the first bands that comes to mind, mainly because they are just the textbook example of what power metal is, or at least in the modern times anyway. It's a lot of songs about war and about rebellion and about being strong and having all these anthems and cheesy choruses, which Hammerfall kind of dug themselves into a hole by the time we got to the 2010s. But their first 5 or 6 albums, with the exception of their third album, Renegade from 2000, um, are all fantastic records. Glory to the Brave from 97, Legacy of Kings from 98, um, and Threshold from 2006, and No Sacrifice, No Victory from 2009. All 4 of those albums are fantastic. But my favorite album from Hammerfall would have to be their 2002 album, Crimson Thunder. That album is absolutely stacked from top to bottom. It's where the band peaked, songwriting wise, production wise, definitely. Um, and it's really where their gimmick kind of worked. Hearts on Fire, the Crimson Thunder title track, Riders of the Storm, Trailblazers, um, all those songs. Absolutely fantastic. And I even like the latest 2 studio albums, Hammer of Dawn from 2022 and last year's Avenge the Fallen. Both of those albums were really, really strong releases from this band. They don't really have a lot of duds. It's just their 2010s output is kind of mid, but everything else in their catalog is either pretty good or amazing. So yeah, Hammerfall absolutely deserves to be on this list for me. Now, we got number 6, and we're going to be talking about another band I recently got into. This is the other big project from one Tobias Sammet, and that is Avantasia. Yes, Avantasia. I'm so glad to see them here. Um, this is a band that, again, I got into pretty recently, and I was very, very impressed with their catalog, considering how much of a mixed bag Ed Guy was in a lot of different ways. Avantasia is just way more consistent and way more to the point, if you will. Tobias Sammet has also said in interviews that with Avantasia, he's able to express himself more as a composer and as a musician and as a performer, and you could definitely tell. You could definitely hear that in a lot of these albums. Their first 5 albums in particular, you have the 2 metal opera albums, The Scarecrow from 2008, and then the 2 albums they released in 2010 with Angel of Babylon, and my personal favorite album from the band, The Wicked Symphony, which is just another one of the best power metal albums I've ever heard, and definitely my favorite album that Tobias Sammet has contributed to, and that includes Ed Guy as well. But again, I've made rankings for pretty much all these bands except for Iced Earth for whatever reason. So if you want to get my in-depth thoughts on their entire discographies, you can go look at their respective episodes. So, yeah, Avantasia comes in here at number 6. Number 5, we've got a band that is just the pure textbook definition of consistent. We're going to be talking about Running Wild. Yo, yes, the pioneers of pirate metal. So before anyone comes into the comments and say that pirate metal is technically not power metal, it's technically a subgenre of power metal. It basically what identifies a whole band's identity. I think the most famous example is with Ailstorm, and all of that would not be possible without Running Wild. Particularly the records that they made from Under Jolly Roger to 2021's Blood on Blood. But I mean, what makes Running Wild so great is their songwriting and their quality of music is so consistent. Like, it's so consistently good that it feels like with every album, you're getting treated to a banger after banger after banger album. It just does not stop. It's a relentless waterfall of just superior musicianship and songwriting. If I had to pick a favorite from the band, it would be their 1994 album Black Hand In, even though Blazing Stone and Masquerade were both very close. But Black Hand In at the end of the day is and always will be my favorite Running Wild album. I think it has some of their best riffs, their best music, the best vocal performance from Rolf Kasperick. Um, and yeah, and it's just got amazing songs as well. But yeah, overall, Running Wild, fantastic band. Definitely give them a listen. So coming in at number 4, we've got another band from the United States. And for a long time, this was my favorite American power metal band before another band shot up the rankings. And that is Savatage. So Savatage, I've already talked to death about this band on this channel. Um, and I know a lot of people classify Savatage as many different as like prog metal or even specific kind of thrash metal. But I mean, and for a while, I always considered them to be prog metal as well. But after a deeper reconsideration, I came to the conclusion that they are U.S. power metal. They're aggressive than most other power metal bands, but they're still pretty epic, and they're still pretty anthemic as well, especially from Gutter Ballet onwards. But my favorite album from Sabotage would have to be their 1987 album, Hall of the Mountain King. Just one of the most ferocious and one of the most blood pumping albums you will ever hear. And of course, the Oliva brothers are just absolute monsters on this album. This was Sabotage at their best. And yeah, what more can I say? Hall of the Mountain King is an absolute masterpiece. Definitely one of the most important albums to me. So with that said, Savatage comes in here at number 4. Now we get to the top 3, and these 3 bands are very, very important in not just my taste for power metal, but for my taste in music overall. So let's go ahead and talk about them. So number 3, we've got Camelot. We're staying in Tampa, Florida. Holy smokes. So Camelot is an American / international power metal band. And they are responsible for just some of the best albums ever. Particularly The Fourth Legacy from 1999, Epica from 2003, The Black Halo from 2005, and Ghost Opera from 2007, even though I wasn't crazy about that record. And then, of course, one of the absolute best power metal albums of all time, Karma from 2001. I re-listened to that album recently, and yeah, that album is so good. Camelot is an absolutely special band. Roy Khan, one of the best vocalists ever, as with Tommy Karavik, who joined the band in 2011, 2012, somewhere around there, and is still in the band up until this day. He's made some great albums with Camelot, mainly with The Shadow Theory from 2018 and 2023's The Awakening. But make no mistake, Camelot is an amazing band, and I love them to pieces. And that's why they are number 3. So number 2 and number 1, I've kind of gone back and forth recently, but yeah, this one's going to hurt. But at number 2, I have Sonata Arctica. So Sonata Arctica was originally number 1. They were originally number 1 until I went back and re-listened to who is the number 1 spot, and I was just like, yeah, there's just no way I could put Sonata Arctica higher. Even though Sonata Arctica, I love them to pieces. They are the only band on this channel that I've reviewed every single album in an individual album review video for. Tony Kakko is one of, if not my favorite, power metal vocalist of all time. His voice is just so beautiful, so unique too. Ecliptica, their debut album from 1999, is one of my favorite albums of all time, and in my opinion, the greatest debut album ever. Silence from 2001, Winterheart's Guild from 2003, Reckoning Night from 2004. They pretty much don't have any bad albums except for their 2012 album, Stones Grow Her Name. We don't talk about that album yet. Uh, but everything else that Sonata Arctica has done is ranges from pretty good to holy macaroni majesty. But yeah, Sonata Arctica, you can't go wrong with these Finnish boys. Love Sonata Arctica so much. Um, yeah, they're here at number two, I'm afraid, because number one, come on, you know who it is. It's Helloween. The pioneers, the grandfathers, the founding fathers, whatever, of power metal, responsible for some of the most timeless records in all of heavy metal. Walls of Jericho from 1985, the Two Keeper of the Seven Keys albums, part one being my favorite and my favorite power metal album of all time, though part two is pretty freaking close. Um, and of course, their early 90s albums, Pink Bubbles Go Ape and Chameleon, all the Andy Darris albums, late 90s, early 2000s, from Time of the Oath all the way to The Dark Ride, and then the recent albums that they did with the super lineup of Pumpkins United with the self-titled album and Giants and Monsters from this year. Helloween Helloween paved the way for me becoming a power metal fan. And I mean, well, I could basically say the same thing with a lot of other power metal enthusiasts, because Helloween was pretty much the band that started it all. Power metal would not be power metal without Helloween. But at the end of the day, Helloween just wins out for me. They are a very important band for me, responsible for some of the most important music that has shaped my taste in music. So for that reason alone, Helloween just has to be number one for me. Even though Sonata Arctica and Camelot were pretty close. But at the end of the day, Helloween are the greatest power metal band of all time. No debate. So with that said, that concludes this edition of Magic Metal Mondays. Thank you so much for watching, my fellow YouTube divers. This is Water Dive 122 signing out. Ready to dive and more fun on YouTube. Thanks for watching.